So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and we'll get started here this evening. Father, we just thank you for this evening, for the opportunity to spend some time gaining biblical wisdom. Lord, you have called us to lead in our lives, in our homes, in our families, in workplaces, in ministry. And so, Lord, we want to gain wisdom and understanding and to lead like you lead like Jesus leads, to lead in the ways that you will make us fruitful and productive in. And we ask your Holy Spirit to be here with us in this time together and guide and direct the conversation to make it fruitful and productive and to accomplish what you have in mind here tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So talking today about leadership is, last week's, I said it was kind of a quick hit on some things on leadership. And tonight we're going to dig into two separate topics. And you may feel like there's not a lot of Bible verses we're talking about here. It's a leadership training. It's biblically based. As our Wednesday night classes are what we call our growth track. They're the life application stuff that we need. And so you'll hear the biblical principles in this, but we may not necessarily pull up a bunch of chapter and verse to look at it. But where we're going to start first here this evening is talking about being in search of eagles. If you're a leader, you have an organization, maybe you're a manager in a workplace, eagles are the people you're looking for. Right? These are the people that they stand out from everyone else. When you're interviewing people for a position, this is the person that stands out. It doesn't even, skills even aside, you go, I want this person. There's just something that emanates from them that says, this is I hate to say a quality person, right? But God's not a respecter of persons. I get that. But you know that there are people that you come across this is a person I want in my organization. This is somebody I want on my team. And so some of the characteristics of an eagle, things like they manage time and they see it as a valuable commodity. They're persistent and make good things happen. They're able to focus on the task and complete it without being distracted. Squirrel. They can handle situations and recognize its importance to be in the right place at the right time. They gain satisfaction from their work through whether it be recognition, making a living, how they contribute to society. I really think truly eagles are people who are much more internally motivated, right? That there are people that I know are on my staff at the Mesa office that when it comes to the people who are in my office every week asking for a raise, and if any of them are watching, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about somebody else. And the people that don't even ever bring it up. Think about it. There's a motivation that they have that's deeper than the paycheck. All right, and so someone who is an eagle, but they also need to be recognized. And we need to do this. It's very easy to lose. It's a whole different teaching that we don't have here, but easy to lose eagles when you take for granted that they don't have that type of motivation. But they're internally motivated, right? People who aren't an eagle type, they're very externally motivated. Everything is opposite of internal. There you go. They're able to see an opportunity and grasp it, even if risk is necessary, right? Eagles aren't afraid to take risks because they're looking at something bigger. They know that anything that's worthwhile is going to take some risk to get there. So if eagles are what we're after, why do we seem to pick turkeys? Well, there's a lot of reasons. We choose warm bodies to fill responsibility instead of locating the best suited person. I mean, years ago, we're so blessed right now. Our receptionist at our Mesa location, she's just a great receptionist. She's great at what she does. But there was something we recognized several years ago, is we had to change our mindset on how we approach a receptionist. The receptionist is always kind of approached as a sort of an entry-level position. But they're not. If you think about it, this is the person who is the first voice that people hear on the phone when they call our church. They're the first person who's given the impression of who we are to any new person that calls in. So we needed to think a little bit more about who we're putting in that position, and actually had to realize, we should probably be paying that position a little bit more if we want to attract a quality person. But we tend to When I was in youth ministry, it seemed like a lot of times as a youth pastor, all you can seem to find are turkeys. That's all it's willing to come hang out with youth. But I guess they say birds of a feather. I don't know. And so you get in the habit of just filling the role. I remember times of being frustrated as a youth pastor going, we had the Saturday night date night over at Mesa, and I was, so that Saturday night, I'd have to be there till 10:30 that night if I didn't have volunteers to come and run that team. And we still do run a program there where I think it ends at 9 right now. But if you came to the Saturday service, we'll watch your kids so that you can go out on a date and go out to dinner. And so, I had the high school part of that. And some would say, well, the high schoolers don't need babysitting. And if you say that, you've never had a high schooler. But sometimes it got to be, I just want a warm body in here so that I feel like I've got it covered and I can go home. And so we get into a habit or sometimes feeling I've got positions that have to be filled, and we just put anybody in. And sometimes I get it, we have no choice. But we need to, as much as we can, press through and find the quality people. Find the people who are best suited for the position. Some I'll throw in here as well, and I can't remember if it's going to be in the next part or not. One of the things we've learned in our organization is the importance of finding the right seat on the bus for the person. Sometimes we've hired people that, without the right way of thinking, you think they're a bad employee. And what we find out is sometimes it was our fault. We put them in the wrong seat. That's just not where they fit. And there's been employees that, because especially it's a little bit different when you're managing a church versus a business. We're much more family. We don't really fire people. And sometimes that's not a good thing. People realize that they're never going to fire me here. It takes a lot to get fired. But there's some employees that have been with us for many, many years, and it took us quite a while to find out which seat they fit in. We love them, and they seem like they should be doing well. They just can't seem to flourish where we're putting them. And they came in initially for one position, and then they eventually, boom, yeah, now we found it. They're flourishing. And so don't assume they're not eagle material if they don't show it right away. Sometimes we have to put the mirror on us and go, maybe I'm not pulling it out of them. Okay. Turkeys show up, but you have to find eagles. Turkeys flock, but eagles don't flock. You have to find an eagle. There's not just a whole flock of eagles. There's a flock of seagulls, and they have hair that goes up, but there's not a flock of eagles, right? You just don't see them congregating. You have to go out and find them. Maybe you're attracting turkeys instead of eagles, and we have to look in the mirror. Maybe the environment I have is not attracting eagles. Eagles don't like to get into turkey environments. I'll give an example that I could share from personal experience as a musician. That right now, so because of COVID, I don't have a lot of my people around here. I don't have musicians, so we have this stripped down worship, and that's kind of what we're doing right now. And so because my philosophy is let's do what we can do well. I'm not going to, I could go grab some of our kids out of our youth group and teach them to play some instruments, and we'd have a band up there in a couple weeks, and it wouldn't be very good. Except all the parents and all the church family, we would love it because that's our kids and we love them. But it wouldn't be very good. And that's important to me. First of all, because it's for God. It should be the best. But second, if I want to attract the quality musicians, success attracts success, right? So they want to see it. And I know, and I'm an easygoing guy and not real, high-strung or anything. But if I walked in, I was brand new, walked into a church, and I've been a professional guitar player for decades, and I can see they need one. But I look up to go, that is a mess. I'm not getting involved with that. I ain't got time for that. I've done my time. I've been there a long time ago. I'm not doing it again. And I won't draw those people in. So sometimes it's our environment that's not drawing the people in that we need. And so we need to look at our environment and look at things and how they're being run. Some things about your environment that may not be attracting. You want structure, but eagles want flexibility. I think that we made a lot of adjustments over the years, and we kind of swung back and forth with different, business management philosophies with our staff, where everything was very strict, and you punched a clock, and if you're over, a minute on your lunch, you're going to hear about it. To go in the opposite direction and going, well, you know what, we need to be flexible and open. But you have to realize that eagles can handle flexibility, turkeys can't. Right, so you have to have a little bit of delineation on level. So if I have high-level employees who are making the big decisions and they're producing results, I'm not going to be on them about a time card. Only to the extent that the law requires me to account for things. But they want the flexibility to have the ability to make decisions, and they don't want to be controlled. Right, an eagle doesn't want to be controlled. You want stability. Eagles want excitement. And that no pun intended, actually pun entirely intended, that ruffles feathers. Right? That especially you get in a church environment. We want stable, quiet, calm, and we do. We're after, as leaders, we know that the sheep like to drink from still water. And eagles like to come in and they make waves. But we need them. We need people sometimes to come make some waves, get us thinking differently, get us looking at going, why are we doing that? Could you explain to me why we do it? I've had people come in, they're fairly new, but will come in and you can tell they're an eagle type of a personality. Go, so Pastor, can you explain to me why we do that? And I'll go explain to go, okay, well, couldn't you just, like, yes, you're right. Eagles, or good leaders, bring people with them. They add value to your team. Now, this is sometimes a difficult thing for me because, again, going in a church environment, it's approached a little bit differently. Sometimes I'll have people come into our church who have just come from another church. Maybe didn't move. There's a whole reason they left the church and they came here. I'm not after them to go pull all the people out of their church and bring them here. That's not my thing. That doesn't win in the kingdom. It just moves people around in the kingdom. It's why. I'm not going to go there because I know I'll say something that will offend somebody who's watching online. Eagles are idea people. Right? Some of the things about ideas, the best way to have a good idea is to have lots of ideas. I try even with my son when we're just talking. Today this has been our thing now. On Wednesdays he gets home from school, and as long as he doesn't have too much homework, he gets to come with me down here Wednesday night. And because he does dance classes, he's got all kinds of things going on. But he comes with me on Wednesdays, and I just love listening to him talk about the ideas he has about things. And I'm an adult, and I can go, that's dumb. That doesn't work. But I don't do that. Just let him have ideas. Now, if he's spending my money, then I'm going to have a little bit of restraint on his idea. Well, but allow that flow of ideas. Eagles are the kind of people, they're going to have lots of ideas. And I think a true eagle doesn't get offended when you don't enact every one of them. The only bad ideas are those that die without giving rise to other ideas. Right? That was a bad idea, but in the middle of it, we came up with this. And then great ideas are nothing more than restructuring what you already know. And then eagles, another thing that you'll know that you're dealing with in eagles are people who have a great attitude. Right? Not just like super cheery, but they have this attitude about them. Right? They're always seeing the potential for success. They're always seeing, we could do this. All right, that didn't work, but if we just do this, I think we can try this and it'll work again. Rather than some of the things we talked about last week, right? That some people see a problem with every idea, and it's other people see, I forget how I quoted it, but you know what I'm getting at. It's been a long day. A winner's edge is attitude, not aptitude. Right? It isn't always that they're the smartest person, but the attitude. Attitude is the criteria for success. You can't buy a good attitude. You choose it and you build it. Another thing is that people who are truly eagles aren't intimidated by other eagles. That's how you can tell you have somebody in a leadership position or any position. that even though they may appear eagle-ish on the surface, if they start getting intimidated when other people are coming in who are eagles, that tells you that they're not really an eagle. Because true eagles, they're not worried about somebody else. They're not worried somebody's going to take my job. They're eagles. They'll figure out, if you take my job, I'll find another one. I'm not worried about it. They know the value that they have. So that kind of leads into, I think, thoughts for us to have, not only as to what we're looking for in our organizations or in whatever we're leading, but also thinking about, that's what I need to be. If I want to attract those kind of people, then I need to exhibit those kind of qualities. So kind of transitioning to our second topic for tonight is the steps or progression or levels of leadership that we work through. And so we're going to look at 5 different levels of leadership. But in these 5, I would say that most leaders don't get much past 2. And in some types of organizations, I guess that's okay, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. But your best leaders are going to get, and you'll see why, I'd say maybe even 3, but most leaders are not going to get to step 4 because of what's really required to get there. So let's start by talking, a couple of quotes here I wanted to give you. Greatness is only 1 inch beyond mediocrity. Now that 1 inch is faith and acting on it. The world measures greatness by what we gain in life. God measures greatness by what we give in life. And few are big enough to be small enough to be used by God. I love that. Let's talk about our steps, our levels of leadership. The first level is position. People follow because they have to, right? We've all been in the workplace where there's the person and they have the title and a position. Absolutely nobody respects them, but they have a position. So you have to respect to a certain extent. And we all start, and so when we talk about these levels of leadership, I think we kind of have, as a leader, there's probably one of them that we tend, that we've kind of progressed to overall, but you have to go through these 5 with each new person in your organization. Everyone starts probably at step 1. You brought them in, we bring a new volunteer in, and depending, if they haven't been here very long, we're probably at step 1. He's the pastor, so I guess what he asked me to do, and it's my job, I'll do it. I would say volunteers, or if I don't have, at this location, a lot of paid employees, but if it was an employee, well, he's the pastor, I got to do, because that's what he said. Right? He's the manager, he's the boss, I have to do, because that's what his position says. And if I want to keep getting paid and have a job, I have to do what he says to do. Now, as long as you're actually a decent leader, you're going to you move beyond that, right? It's going to lead to respect. And then strong leadership in this first position is going to lead to building loyalty. But a lot of what happens in this first level is because you don't have influence and you don't have respect yet, so you just have to demand results. Right? This is kind of, if we were to look at this in our step of progression of how God desires to have a relationship with us, I think there's a lot of Christians that never get past this level 1. They just see God as the boss, and he said, you have to do this, I guess I have to do it. Right? And so, yes, there's things he said we should do, and we should be doing them, but he wants us to grow deeper in this level, because he's like, if this is level 5, he's like level 5 million, but we all start in that place. And so, but discipline without love is abuse, right? So when you stay at this level, it's all about you got to do or else. And without as we get to this a little bit, the deeper levels of leadership, your discipline just ends up just being punishment. Right? Well, we talk about this a lot in our parenting class, because it's how God treats us. He disciplines us. He doesn't punish us. Right? Discipline wants to bring change and growth. Punishment is revenge. Punishment is, I'm mad at what you did and you're going to pay. Discipline says, okay, I don't like what you did. I'm going to use the influence that I have and the position I have to try to bring change. You are a leader in this place because you have a right to lead. But when we remain at this level, we're going to produce a high turnover and low morale. We want an organization with high morale, low turnover. But staying in this kind of a level is going to leave us in a place where we're going to have high turnover, low morale. I think I may even talked about that a little bit last week when we're that type of authoritarian type of a leader, right? That we have this high turnover. We get results because people are afraid to not produce, but we have turnover. We're continually having to train and bring new people in. Your authority exists only on a forced level. Okay, but then step 2. And this is where I think a lot of people get and they think, well, now this balance step 1, so this is as far as we have to go. So step 2 is permission. It's based on relationship. People begin to follow you because they want to. You're a leader because they let you lead. This level allows work to be fun, right? But too long at this level can make highly motivated people get restless. What does that mean? Remember, think of your Eagles again. They want to see results. The workplace is lots of fun. We all have a great relationship. We're all best friends, but we're not producing anything. And that's always, as when you're managing a group of people, I always feel like we have this scale. It's going back and forth, right? We get to where everything's good times, and we're all just having a great time, but nothing's getting done. And we have to swing it back over here, but then sometimes we get a little bit too far to the task and the discipline, and then we lose the fun, and we've lost the relationship. And so it's important for us to always find that balance in our leadership. Your influence begins to be based on relationship. But again, if you're not getting results and you begin to lose your Eagles, like I can go have a party anywhere. I thought we were trying to get something done here. So it's fun times in step 2. But then what it takes, what'll get us out of that roller coaster going back and forth between really step 1 and step 2 is if we'll progress to step 3, which is production. And people begin to follow you because you get results. That they respect you. Even if they don't know who you are, you begin to have a reputation that you get results. That things get done in this team. And so I want to be part of this team. I want that to be my leader. You are a leader because of what you've done. People like you and what you're doing because you're good enough and smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. But people like you and they like what you're doing. Everyone senses success at all levels, and you begin to influence because people see success. Right? So now as you're rising up in these levels of leadership, you're starting to weed out the people that don't want success. They're just there for the paycheck, or they're just there for the recognition. But the people who want success, again, we're getting this place of success, draw success. Right? So people will begin to want to follow you because they see success. Okay, but even there, I would say even a lot of very successful leaders don't really even get past that level. That there's a further level to get to that we want to get to, and I'll show you here in a minute how this is exactly the process that Jesus did with his disciples. But step 4, or our 4th level, is personnel, or we call reproduction. People now, they follow you because what you've done, not just what you've done, but what you've done for them. You have people on your team, right? That you've had those personal things that you have sown into their life. As I talked about last week, that quote I used that sounds really weird to say it on the surface, but you should owe your team members as a leader. If you're the leader, they should always be in a position of in debt to you, not to manipulate, but to say that I've always given them more than they've given me. And that's what I'm always aiming to do. I'm always aiming to make sure I've given more to my team than I've required them to give me. So they begin to follow you because of what you've done for them. They remember that time that they called at 2 a.m. and I ran down to the hospital and prayed with them. Right? Not this last year, but those are the moments that when that they didn't know what to do with their kid and everything was falling apart, and we sat down and counseled with them and dropped everything and did that for them. They said, "Pastor, I can't believe you did that for us." Right? It's those things that as you've sown into them personally. Right? Now this is why they follow you, is because of what you've done actually for them. You're a leader because you help other people be successful. And so it's not just even about your success, the success of the team, but you're actually concerned about each team member and them being successful. You're committed to train and develop other people. See, one of the reasons leaders never get to this place is because they have that intimidation. If I train somebody up to do my job, they're not going to need me. Or that's bad thinking. If I don't train somebody to do my job, they can't promote me. That's what I try to teach our employees is if your goal is to get beyond the position you're in, then replace yourself. If as long as I need you there, you're going to be there. But if you've drawn people up who can do what you can do, now I can move you on. But they have to, I guess as a leader, they have to know and trust that I would do that. You influence because you're reproducing leaders, not just team members, but you're drawing up other leaders. And this is that multiplication process, right? Jesus started with the 12, and then there's the 72. It begins to grow out. If he just only focused on just a few, then we probably wouldn't all be here, because things had to multiply and had to grow. So you're reproducing leaders. And even as a leader, I should be, I guess I'm not necessarily training up someone to take over my position, although my son, I'm sure, thinks he is being trained up to take my position. When we were asked to pastor this church, was about, I think it was a conversation we had a few years after, because it would have been about the same time that Dr. Tom and Maureen were passing the church on to their sons. And so I remember Dr. Tom and I talking about it, and he's like, well, so you're going to hand your church to your son one day. And I said, well, at the age he was, I said, well, you're handing this over at around 70. If I have to do the same thing, I'm going to be in my 80s before I hand it to him because of how young he is. So I'm going to be praying for one of my daughters to marry pastor material. Because I'll be happy to do it in my 80s, but I think they'll be dragging me off the stage. Me going, Gramps, you don't make sense anymore. Back in my day. So we get now to step 5. And only your top leaders really get to this position. Because, step 4 sounds great. This is a great leader. Step 5 is power. People truly follow because they respect you, right? It's not even, so we've moved on that they respect what you've done, what you've accomplished, and even beyond even respecting what you've done for them, they respect what you've accomplished. Right? That they can see, look at your organization and see this organization is about more than the tasks that we have. That it has grown beyond that. You're a leader because of who you are and what you represent. Right? So it's not just the things you've accomplished, it's who you've shown yourself to be. And that happens really because you do step 4 with a lot of people. Right? It isn't just 1 or 2 people that you've sown that way into. You now have a reputation that this is a leader who cares about his people, like everyone on his team. You are committed to the success of, I can point to that. One of the things that I found is really important in that and building trust in my team is, that when employees, tattle on each other and, they want to make sure that that this employee didn't do what they're supposed to do. And so, I'll do my due diligence and research and find out, okay, yeah, this employee didn't do what they're supposed to do. And so I'll deal with that employee in private. So the person who tattled never saw them get punished, so then they get mad at me because they feel like, well, I told you about this and you didn't do anything. And I tell them, just because you didn't see me do anything doesn't mean I didn't do anything. It was none of your business. And people, your team needs to know that there's that level of trust. If there's something going on that I have to correct or discipline, it's going to be between us. We don't publicly flog. That's punishment and humiliation. I want change. I want growth. And so there's a lot better ways to bring change and growth. It's the same. We do the same thing with our kids. We got stuff always going on with our kids where we gotta do things. And so the kids need to know, just because it looks like brother or sister got away with it, they didn't. It's just none of your business. Just the same as when we have our things, it's none of their business. You have that level of respect that your team has. You're a leader because of who you are and what you represent. You're committed to the success of others. So you're not just developing it or pulling it out. That's your commitment as a leader. Now, I've risen to a point in leadership where my team is concerned with the goals and getting things done. My responsibility now, my focus is my team. How do I make them more productive? How can I, not just to get the results, how do I make them more successful? And then my influence is because of really who I am. The higher the level you achieve, the longer it's going to take. The greater the commitment, the greater growth. And the greater the influence or how wide your organization or ministry grows, and the easier it becomes. So, I mean, even looking at this, and now we're going to look at, just real quickly, a little bit more in depth, real quickly on each one. I got a few notes here written down I want to get to. Again, you look at how Jesus, what he did. He had his 12, but he had 3 that he really sowed into. Right? You're going to begin to find as you're growing as a leader, you begin to find out, where should I be investing my time? Who are the people on my team that I need to sow the most into because they have the most potential to grow more? Or you begin to identify, okay, this is the person I believe I'll be using to reproduce myself in this position. So you begin to sow into them. Now, Jesus didn't ignore the other 9, but his most of his time went into those 3. Okay, and I think I just got a little bit ahead of myself, so let me back up a little bit. So the characteristics of the leader at each one of these levels. So at level 1, when I talk about these characteristics, it's to be successful at that level and to prepare yourself to jump into the next level. So if you're at level 1, either you're new in a position of leadership or you have new team members. You know your job description and responsibilities well. You know how you fit in, or how do I fit in the organization? I know how I relate to others, setting an example, earning trust to work into a friendship. So, that we all hate the boss that tells us to do things that they won't do. Right? They lay out, if you have that environment where the boss is laying out, you better punch your clock and do all that, but they're never in the office. Right? If you're at level 1, you can't do that. And actually, you'll find out further down the road, even more so, that you shouldn't be doing that. But at level 1, you're never going to get past level 1 if you don't take the same responsibility they have. Set the example. Do the job consistently with excellence. Do more than is expected. Right? These are the type of attitudes we have to have if we're going to move past that level 1. Level 2, now talking about relationships. If I want to grow as a leader and develop in my ability to grow, I'm the kind of person I have to focus on these things because I'm the kind of person I'm happy to have 3 friends in the world, and that's fine. I'm happy that way. And Pastor Jason and I have been best friends for 20 plus years, and even as best friends, we probably go out socially twice a year. That's just, I don't have that need for it, but I have to remember not everybody's that way. Right? So as a leader, I have to meet my people. They need relationship. And the funny thing is then when you find out, even though I think I don't need it, the more I build it, boy, this is kind of fun. Being positive, love people more than the program. Right? One of the I would say rules we have around here with all of our staff is that it's always the people ahead of the rule, always the people ahead of the program. If we're you're like, Pastor, you shouldn't say this online. Everyone's going to come and ask for something this week. So, we have, I don't know, something that we're selling for an event or something, and someone doesn't have the money for it. Well, we're not going to go, I'm sorry, you got to pay for those. Well, maybe let's have some discernment and go, it would have really blessed this person to have that book or to have that thing. Or we've told, I'm thinking back years ago, like our bookstore, that, if the person needs that book, just put it in their hand. Just give it to them. Be blessed. Right? If somebody signs up for something and, I'm sorry, we sold all the tickets for that. Right? That's not what we do. That we're always going to put the person ahead of the program and the rule. And isn't that what Scripture shows us, that how God operates? He was always about the relationship over rules. Like some of the things that King David did that under the law were punishable by death. But there was a relationship he had with God. And I always point out that how what the difference in his relationship with God is every time he failed miserably, instead of running and hiding from God, he always ran to God. That tells you that there's a relationship. Right? I want with my kids, right? I want when they've blown it big time, instead of hiding from me, that they run to me when they've made the mistake. That tells me there's a relationship. So we love people more than a program. At this level, we're learning to really be in a place that I'm seeing through the other people's eyes. I need to see the organization through my team's eyes, not mine. Especially if, like me, I'm a visionary. I see everything as complete and done and perfect already because I already imagined it, so it's done. But my team's not seeing it that way yet. I need to see things through their eyes. I need to look at the decisions we make through their eyes, right? So if we were going to, cut Christmas bonuses and give out the Jelly of the Month Club, we should think of how that affects the people who count on those bonuses. Sorry, another reference. I'm learning to make other people successful. I love this. Do it to win or don't do it. One of our leaders here in the church, he played college football. I don't know if he's watching tonight, but one of the first times we went out to dinner, he was sharing with me something that his coach in college had said, and maybe it's something every football coach says. I don't know because I didn't play college football. But he said this. He said, the coach always told them that every play we run, if it's executed to perfection, is a touchdown play. Every play. We don't plan to get a half a yard. Sometimes that's all we need. But we're planning to get a touchdown. If our play is run perfectly, we'll end up with a touchdown. And so we have to kind of have that approach. We get it. We're not going to hit the mark all the time. Right? Every batter that goes to the plate is planning to get a hit. But the best ones only do it a third of the time. But I go there to plan. I don't go up there to plan to just strike out this time and we'll get it next time. No, we go in planning to win. But now, getting to that level 3, as I said kind of earlier on, I think a lot of people don't really even get past that level 2. Some get here to level 3, but it starts requiring more of us as a leader. To get to 2 and beyond level 3, we're going to have to get past it, but that's not my job. That's not my job description. Right? That's always assigned to me. However good an employee may be, if they come to me and they're upset about something they have, and they pull out the employee handbook and show me their job description, like, okay, this I can see unless something changes in this person, this is as far as they're going to go. Because you have to begin to look beyond that. And so as a leader, right, you see people get into middle management in companies and they never get any further because it's not their job. As I think I said this last week, one of the things I'm always looking for is I'll put a person in a position who has been doing the position without the title. If they operate as the one who has a title, without concern for the title, then that's somebody who should get the title. But here in level 3, so now we begin to develop purpose. Why, as a leader, why am I doing this? I have to have, what's my internal motivation for why I'm doing what I'm doing? If my motivation is still just my paycheck, then I'm never going to get to this level, and I'm not going to get beyond it. I've got to have, so if you're going to get into these higher positions, it's going to be important for you, if you want to truly be successful, is to be in an organization or a company or a ministry or whatever it is you're doing that you believe in. That there's purpose behind what you're doing. That there is something inside of you that will be gaining satisfaction out of the success of what you're doing. If you don't have that, you're not going to get your team to this level, and you won't get past this level. Developing goals and accountability. But there's a difference between the ruling with an iron fist and holding the team accountable. In fact, when you develop the teams correctly, teams hold themselves accountable. We try as much as we can, especially as pastors here, to develop systems in our church where the departments hold themselves accountable. I don't put out rules that says, okay, if you're on this team, you need to make sure you're tithing, and you come here and you do this and you do that, and you don't miss church and you don't do that. I don't do that. I count on my teams at their level to go, hey, Susie, why haven't you been coming to church lately? They need to do that. Because I tell you, as soon as I do it, it starts getting weird. As soon as the pastor calls you, as soon as the people at the top start, when the team holds itself accountable. But you also get respect by holding people accountable. Again, it is the positive on that when people see that the people don't just get away with not doing their job, that people are held accountable. And I may not know what happened, but I do notice that they weren't doing their job, and all of a sudden now they are. So The boss did something. He accomplished something, and sometimes they look at it and you get a lot of respect. They go, well, if he got them to do that, he's got to be pretty good. We can discern to do only the things that produce a high return, right? So if we're progressing these higher levels of leadership, we have to learn to focus on the things that actually produce. We have to change with the times and grow up. Right? It is why I believe some churches die, because they won't change. Just kind of doing what they've always done, which is great for the people who love what you've always done. But eventually, time goes on, and you don't have those people anymore. I remember when we first moved out here from Illinois, and my dad came at the time. He and my mom were both. This was in the early '90s, both out of work, and had always talked about moving out here to Phoenix. We grew up in Chicago, and thought, well, we both need a job now. We may as well go there if we both had to find a job anyway. Let's do it. So they came out here, and an old pastor friend of theirs was running a little Pentecostal church out here. And so they came, and we're going to help him. And of course, because of the background I had already had from back in Illinois, they asked me to run the youth group. The youth group was like one kid who was like, a great-grandchild of somebody who came to church, kind of a thing. And so, I'm looking around going, okay, if I have any hope of getting married, I can't stick around here. Like, I have to find somewhere else to go, and the options that some people would use are not my options. So and that's part of what motivated our family to come over to Living Word all those years back then. And once you know it worked, I found a wife. Pretty good one, too. But we have to change. One of the things I just taught last Monday to all of our teachers over at Mesa for all the different programs and things we have there is the importance of we've had to change with the times. The times have changed a lot in 1 year. And so we have to adjust. If we don't adjust, then we die. And so we can complain that we don't like how things have changed. We can complain about what we think people should be doing and what they're not doing, but the fact remains, it is what they're doing. So we still have to reach people. So let's figure out how we're going to do it. And we have to change. The example I used was, again, going to my music background. 1990, late 92, was about 92, 93 when the MP3 was invented, right? And so, this thing is invented, but at first the music industry isn't too concerned about it, right? They keep still pushing physical product. Well, then we get to what is about 97, 98, and it was 99, I think, when Napster came out. Remember Napster? Which is, no one admits that they were on Napster and downloading music free, but right, so suddenly now it kind of got the attention, but they figured, here's the thing, is even getting it free, people they're going to want that physical item. They want that physical product. They're not going to be okay with that. Well, what happened? We don't own any physical products anymore. Right? We have Spotify. We just dial up and listen to what we want. Nobody owns the physical product anymore. The industry changed. Right? Media changed over the years, how it came out. Right? We go back to the early the early part of the 20th century, right? You had the 78 records, right? They were like this thick and they were brittle, like Mo would crack them over Larry's head, right? And then we got our 33s and our 45s, but it was still a physical product. Right? Then we had I had to be an insane person who invented the 8-track tape. So we had that, and you put it in, and right, you had. I remember if you had like the Skynyrd album in there and you were listening to Freebird, like halfway through the second guitar solo, it fades out. And then click, click, and it fades back in. It would always be like the best song on the album that it would do that too. I think it was the Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon album, like it faded out in the middle of Money or something. It was like, why would you do that? Right, so we had that, then we had cassette tapes, and then we had CDs, but everything was still a physical product, and the industry said, well, people still want a physical product, but guess what? They didn't change. And so now, right, they're scrambling, trying to figure out, well, the only way they make money is to take more of it from the artists now, but right, there's major artists now that aren't even on major labels anymore. I don't need them. They became irrelevant because they refused to change. Right, so and we see same things happening in industries all over, and especially now at a faster pace. Right, it took 75 years to kill off the physical music industry, but things are happening quick now. If we don't change, as a leader, we've got to change. We've got to see what's going on around us and go, okay, I'm writing reviews for a lot of our staff right now. And a lot of things I'm hitting them is, how are you adapting and changing your department for how things have changed? How are you changing the way we do things because now your biggest core group you're trying to hit are millennials, and they think differently. The old ways you used to recruit people to volunteer for things and get people plugged in, that doesn't work anymore. They don't do those things. How are you going to change? Right, as a leader, we always got to be thinking of those things. So these are things that we have to have in mind and growing inside of us to move from that level 3. So you can see why I'm saying that most leaders don't get past this level. Because they're not willing to make that personal investment that it takes. Just that they have the mentality, I'm doing my job and I'm checking the list, so therefore I'm good. And eventually your job goes away. But in the level 4, now I'm in this position. What am I thinking? Well, how do I want to be preparing myself now? I'm placing, here's where I said I got ahead of myself a little earlier, placing our priority on training others, pouring our efforts in the top 20%. So who's the cream in my coffee? What's rising to the top? I need to focus 80% of my time into those 20% of people. I need to move from being a firefighter, right? People who are leaders that are always fighting the fires, they don't get to this level, right? They're continue just to fight fires and whatever is thrown at them. You have to begin to manage your time and decide where you're going to invest it. You're equipping your leaders to equip the rest of the team, right? You're developing leaders to now lead the rest of the team. That's why you can focus your energy on them. You know, our lead pastors don't meet with the whole staff every week. They meet with, we have a meeting with the lead pastors of all of our campuses, and we have maybe one other meeting with key leadership. It's now our job to do the staff meetings and all the other team meetings and to make sure all the other things are happening. They can't do that. They need to stay in vision and preparing sermons, right? That's what we got to do. That's our job. Okay. If we make enough other people successful, we'll be successful. That's the way we look at it. I'm not successful unless my team is successful. I don't consider myself successful even if we hit the bar, we hit the goal, if the people weren't successful. Because it's still really easy in that firefighting mentality to say we got it done, but if I look back, I go, yeah, because I had to pick up the ball and do it myself. Right, so it's important for us to have that. And then we surround ourselves with people who cover our weaknesses. Again, a lot of times leaders can't do that. They feel intimidated because they realize they have a weakness, and if somebody else has that strength, they're worried about that person instead of seeing them as a tremendous asset to their team. Right? I need that person on my team because I could admit I'm not good in this area. I'm a visionary. I come up with big ideas, but I better have some people who take my ideas and make sure they actually happen. Otherwise, they're just ideas. Or as Dr. Tom would always say, if with the ideas without actual planning and implementation, they're just hallucinations. Right? They don't do anything. And years ago, I remember that I was talking about it, and Pastor Tammy, at one of my birthdays or something, got me back before we can do this on our phones now, the little voice recorder. So I would tell her, I remember telling her one day that I'm like, God has given me probably a dozen $1 million ideas. I just don't remember what any of them are. Because they just came, I probably thought about them a lot for a few days, and then boom, that was it. Something came up and I didn't think about it anymore, and now it's gone. So I started recording, and okay, so I don't forget that idea. Now I don't know what my excuse is, but it isn't because I forget them now. But now working into level 5, this is something that's kind of become one of my mantras with my team, is asking myself, do I want to be right or do I want to get the results? And this is also a great adage in marriage too. What's more important, being right or the relationship? Right, but do I want to be right or want to have results? So I give this example of the person who oversees all of our volunteer departments and implementation of all of our volunteers. And he took the initiative to recognize that there were some problems in our system, that their pipeline would bring new people in, especially over at our Mesa location. It's much bigger, a lot more people coming through there, getting new people in, getting them connected, so they would get the new people, pass them off to whoever runs that department. Well, whoever runs that department, they're busy, and they forget, and they don't call the person. And so then what happens? Well, if you came in here and you wanted to get connected and plugged in, we signed you up, we did all that, and you can't even get a call back from the person who runs the department, not only you're not volunteering, you probably left the church too, because you just didn't feel appreciated. Now, it isn't because that person in the department doesn't care. They just got so much they're doing, and it's real easy to not make that phone call. So now, if I want to be right, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep pushing it and pushing on that person to make sure, make your calls, make your calls, make your calls, make your calls. And odds are they're still not going to make their calls. So do I want to be right, or do I want results? So he's organized a whole new system now where his team, he's got the training from everyone they need. They work on getting the person trained, develop these people and get them plugged in. I've handed over the finished product to you now. Everything's ready to go. And so it is, should that department head be the one who does it? Yeah. But it wasn't happening, so what's more important? Get the result. Be right or get the result. And you're going to find most times you get to choose which one, and you usually don't get both. Okay, so level 5. Followers are sacrificial and loyal, and they lead others up your ladder. So what's happened? We started this reproducing back at level 3, but now we've got leaders who are now reproducing. They're pulling people up. They delegate, you begin to delegate your authority. Right? Isn't that what, and this is where I was going to get to in this last example, that's what Jesus did. He delegated, that's what God did really from the beginning. He delegated some authority to us on earth. We didn't do a real good job with it, but I'm pretty sure he saw it coming. Right? That he delegated authority. And here's the thing, when you delegate authority, you don't get to always take it back. Because if you keep taking it back, then you didn't delegate it, and then people don't trust you. And they won't take the authority you give them because they know at the drop of a hat you're going to take it back. So I find I have to sometimes give that authority to somebody, and just like God understands, they may fall flat on their face, but I gave them the authority. If I wasn't prepared for them to fall on their face, I shouldn't have given them the authority. Right? I've got to have a system built so even if they do completely fail, the organization doesn't fail. I can pick them back up. We can restore. We can fix this. We can learn, and let's keep going. Right? And so we have to get to a place of delegating, truly delegating our authority. And so I have to sometimes do that. I have to go, there's people, I maintain the right to say, okay, the Lord told me to do some different things here. But if I've given someone authority in a department to do something, I don't just step in and start micromanaging their department again. That's your department. You run it. Now, if I have big vision, big picture things that the Lord showed me we need to change, I'm going to come to you and say, hey, we need to do this. But as you run your department, I gave that authority to you. When employees come to me instead of their direct supervisor about things, I go, no, that's their authority. Go back to them. If we keep the authority structure as it should be in place. And then a level 5 leader has got to a point where we transcend the organization so that it continues when you are gone, which then leads me again, as I've been kind of teasing here, looking at how Jesus did this. Right, there's this 5-step process, if you will, of growing and developing leaders. Number 1 is I model it. I do it. Right, so that's where Jesus begins. He begins by he does it. He does everything. The second step is now I mentor it, meaning I do it while you watch. Right, so Jesus is doing his thing, and now he begins to pull in disciples, and now he says, now I'm going to do this while you watch. And then our third step is, well, now I monitor it, which meaning you do it while I watch. Right, he began to give the disciples some authority, and he taught them, and then he began to send them out and watch what they did, and they fell on their face sometimes. He said, we tried to cast this demon out, and it didn't work. It didn't seem to work the way you did it. Is it just because you're Jesus? No, you're just not doing it right yet, but it's okay, right? Because I was here. I'm here to watch. And then the fourth is now I motivate. Now you do it. Right? Then he began to just send them out completely, right? He sent the 72 out, just go do, right? And so he trained them because they came back and said, wow, we did what you said, and wouldn't you know it, it worked. And then the 5th level is now multiply it, which means now you do it and somebody else watches. Keep that process going. So isn't it how Jesus did it, right? He started off, he did, and then he did while his disciples watched. Then he sent his disciples out to do. And then what does he say now? Great Commission. Now all authority is given to me. Now you go do. Go make disciples. So making disciples means you go make leaders. But it wasn't just bringing the gospel message, it was bringing people up. And obviously it worked, because here we are. So somebody did their job. We got an account of at least a few of them in the Bible who did their job, who were sent out and did what they were supposed to do, continue to reproduce what they're doing. All right, and I'm over. I guess I'm following my Sunday morning trend, which I'm trying to fix. But I'm a few minutes over here. So let me pray. I didn't leave any time for discussion today, but doesn't mean you can't discuss at home. I'm sure you can do that. It doesn't mean you have to run out the door here if you don't want. But let me close in prayer. Father, we just thank you again that you have called us to lead. And maybe there may be those who were here, maybe we're watching tonight that wonder, I'm not in any kind of position where I can use any of this. I believe that, Lord, as we prepare in our hearts, that you'll open up the doors for opportunity to step in those leadership roles. You've called us. You said, Lord, that if we commit ourselves to you, that you desire to make our name great, that you do it through us. And so, Lord, I know that as we'll step into your leadership styles and loving people, placing people above projects and above programs and truly pouring into our teams, Lord, that we become good stewards of them. You make us rulers over much. Give us bigger assignments and bigger teams to work with. And so, Lord, I thank you for that. I thank you for that, stirring that up in each one who has watched or listened today, to stir up in them those places where they can even examine where they're at now and how they can begin to step into that leadership that you've called us. It isn't about having the title or the position, but beginning to walk in it. And so, Lord, I thank you that you motivate those by your Holy Spirit to begin to walk in those roles and positions, Lord. And we thank you for it. I pray blessing upon each home and each family that's represented here in person, who is with us online, that your face does shine upon them and they're able to give you glory for all the great things that you're doing in their lives. And we thank you for that in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Be blessed. Those of you online, would love to see you, or I guess I should say you see us Sunday online. If not, then next Wednesday. Have a blessed week.